The year 1950 started with an election. Anne was chosen as leader and Joy as second. They were on the committee together with Captain, Josie and Wendy, who was librarian. Good Friday Hike, 1950. On April 7th, 1950, which was a Good Friday, the club went on a hike to Lamley Dumbles. Captain, Anne, Margaret, Josie, Wendy, Janet, Gillian and myself went, and here is a photo taken at the start when we were all clean and tidy. So this is the photograph when they're all clean and tidy. It was a nice fine day and quite warm for the time of year, and as soon as we reached the Dumbles we started to collect wood for a fire, as most of us were going to cook our dinner. I had got my feet wet on the way there, so I tried to dry myself, but not very successfully. After dinner, I had had sandwiches. We played rounders and had some races. We then walked into Lamley village, and Captain treated us to an ice cream. Some of us had more than one, and others bought more lemonade. We went back to the Dumbles and explored. By then it was beginning to get late, so we packed up our things and started off home. On the way we saw some horses, and some of the club members were very frightened of them, but Margaret and I talked to the horses while the others escaped through a hole in a wide gate. We caught them up and managed the rest of the journey without incident. We all had a very nice time, but were glad to get home. Rosemary Loxley. At Whitsuntide we did some practice camping down the garden. The first night Jean and I slept in my tent on the sunbathing lawn, and Josie and Gillian slept in the shed on beds. The following morning, Sunday, we cooked our breakfast at the house and took it down the garden to eat. But at dinner time we cooked our dinner outside when some of the others came as well. Here is a photo of us, left to right, Wendy, Gillian, Margaret, Josie, Captain and Jean. We, as you can see, were all very busy round the fire. Well, this is a picture of them round the fire, but most of them obliterated by the smoke. We cooked potatoes in their jackets, but cooked them so well that there was hardly any potato left. We also had some tinned beans with some bacon. For afters we had a smashing steamed pudding made by Josie. It really was delicious, with syrup on it. In the afternoon, Daddy said he would take us for a ride in a car, but as there were too many of us to ride, we took it in turns. It was great fun, and we went quite a distance, walking and riding. That night, Jean, Gillian, Josie and I slept out again. At 10 o'clock the following morning, we met to go on a hike, we being Rosemary, Wendy, Gillian, Josie, Anne, Margaret, Jean and myself, and my friend Sheila Headley. We went somewhere between Oxton and Calverton. When we saw a wood close at hand, we decided that was the place to stop and cook our dinner. We asked some scouts that were camping there whether it would be all right, and they replied yes. But before we had all finished cooking, a scout told us we must put the fire out and light it in a sandpit where it was safer. This we did, but those who had not cooked their dinner had a job to get the fire going. The rest of us went down to Calverton village to see the Sunday school parade. We arranged to meet the other members of the club in the village, but they turned up an hour late and so lost points for club. Margaret was very annoyed about it, although it was her fault, so she left the club there and then. But the rest of us soon forgot about this. That night, Rosemary and I slept in the tent, and Jean and Wendy slept in the shed. Here is a photo of the club's meeting place, also a photo of Sheila and myself eating breakfast in the garden. A view of the garden at Sheredean, the house owned by Pat's parents. Pat and Sheila eating breakfast in the garden. Pat is a dark-haired girl facing the camera. On Thursday, April 13th, we all went to the pictures at the Bonington to see What to Carry On with Jimmy Jewell and Ben Warris. Club paid half the money for this outing. We spent some of our money on a dozen boxes to sit on and to keep our folders in down the garden. The next important event was our concert on Tuesday 29th of August. Wendy will tell you all about it. The Club Concert 1950. The Club Concert in 1950 was held on Tuesday 29th of August at 7 p.m. The admission was 4p. The concert, of course, was held in the garden. The play, which was called The Good Old Days, started the concert off very well indeed, and Gillian was a very good court usher, and after a lot of practice got her silencing courts in the right places. Joy was the judge, and Shirley Marshall, who came up to help us with the play, was very good at slick lines. Janet, Josie, Anne, Jean, Sumpton, and myself were also in the play. During the concert, some of us did a mime called a tramp, or a bench in Hyde Park. This went off very well indeed. Later on in the concert, there were 4 dances and 8 poems. Jean Sumpton sang Shenandoah, and before the puppet show, there was a short interval. Mr. Seed made a full-size puppet theatre, which was a great asset to the show. At the end of the concert, we had a campfire, which we all joined in. Josie and myself dressed up and sang I Am a Sailor, Young and Gay. After the show, there was a sale of work, and we made £4 to £5 on it. We had all enjoyed the evening very much indeed, and we hope everybody who came enjoyed it also. Wendy Stacy. After the concert, a new member joined named Jean Roberts. Immediately after came Arnold Youth Week, and we were soon busy selling programs for this, as it was a competition between the different youth organisations to see who would sell the most programs. Boys Brigade, BB, came first, Red Cross second, and we were third. We sold 156 in all. Wendy will now give a full report of the week. Arnold Youth Gala Week 1950. Arnold Youth Gala Week was held from the 9th of September to the 17th. Margaret Wharton was the Princess of Youth, and she made a short speech at the opening display. Her attendants were 2 Red Cross girls, and the co-op provided their frocks. On Saturday 9th in the morning, Anne, Josie and myself went down to the Arnold Library to arrange things which the club had made for the handwork display by local youth. This display lasted all the week. There was a table mat and tray cloth, which Captain said were excellently embroidered by me, aged 10. Captain herself sent a pair of beautifully embroidered chair backs and a woolen cushion cover. Also, she sent a tea cosy, to which Janet had made some sweet little egg cosies to match. Gillian sent a cushion cover as well. Our club leader Anne sent a wonderfully embroidered tray cloth and a very sweet child duchess set. The club was also very pleased to display a blanket made of squares, to which we had all contributed. Other little items were also sent. On Saturday afternoon there was a grand opening display, in which there was a parade. A few of the club, being guides, were in this. Later in the afternoon we were very proud to see one of our club on the dancing display in the park. This, of course, was Josie. Also there were numerous other things in the park that day in which the club were interested, especially the dancing in the evening on the lawn. Daddy was master of ceremonies, and he soon got it going with a swing. I didn't go on the Monday night, but Captain went and said it was quite a good show. On Tuesday, Janet, Anne and Joy looked after the library exhibition, while a few of the other members of the club went to a dance at the Empress Ballroom. Daddy was also MC for this. On Wednesday, Daddy compared the sports at Robert Mellor's school. Anne, Gillian and myself looked after the library on Thursday night. Friday was the great event of the week for most of the club, as we performed a mime in Daybrook Baptist schoolroom. This mime was called The Tramp, and Joy, Anne, Gillian, Josie and myself were in it. Captain arranged it. Joy was a young lady, and it caused much laughter and whistling among the audience when she came onto the stage. Anne, who was an old woman with lots of parcels, caused much merriment also. Then I came in, dressed as a little girl, and after me, Gillian, dressed as a very good-looking boy. We two played around a bit on the seat until finally Josie, as a tramp, walked in and sat by the side of me. She started scratching her fleas and passed them on to me. Gradually she moved us all off the bench and lay down and went to sleep. This mime went off very well. The following night there was a searchlight display. The Girl Guides sang a few songs. There were also other things that night. To conclude the week there was a grand parade in which some of the club joined. Wendy Stacy. This was the front of the programme for the Gala week. At the end of September, Jean Sumpton left the club. Some weeks later, Joy rang me to tell me about Woodthorpe Talent Night, to ask if I would like any of the club to enter. I told her I would ask them and see. At that time, we were busy making the guy for Bonfire Night, and what a smasher he was when he was finished. A few of the club came up on November the 5th, so we bought 5 shillings worth of fireworks between us. We had a really lovely fire. It was a long-to-be-remembered evening. This was the poster for Woodthorpe Talent Night. Only 4 days later was the Talent Night, and we had decided to do the Tramp again, and Janet was going to recite, but unfortunately Janet backed out at the last minute. The club very much enjoyed doing it, and they didn't mind in the least not winning the prize. I must say they all acted very well, as I was told by several people afterwards. Mrs. Briggs asked if it would be possible for Josie, helped by Wendy, to borrow the puppet stage and put on a puppet show for the children's Xmas party at the Conservative Hall. This they did, and the children were very thrilled. By this time we had started learning carols, making Xmas stockings for Dr. Bernardo's homes, and making arrangements for our Xmas party. This receipt for 7 shillings and 2 halfpenny is what we collected in farthings, 1 and 2 halfpenny, and from our friends. The carol singing party went out twice. The first time we went to Anne's and Joy's and round about their districts, where we were very welcome and invited in to share some mince pies and drinks. The second night, Xmas Eve, we kept to Sandfield Road and round about. We raised even more money than before. Here is the receipt and letter from Dr. Bernardo's. A thank you letter from Dr. Bernardo's homes.